Hello, Assalamualaikum. Okay, I'm live on my Instagram. Okay. Hi, Assalamualaikum. Okay, so insyaAllah today as promised, insyaAllah saya akan ada session live bersama Nusaibah. And Nusaibah, later you can you click request? Waalaikumsalam. Oh, Waalaikumsalam. Terima kasih. Hi Nia. Okay, so insyaAllah let's wait for Nusaibah to request for this live session. I will, as semua orang tahu, Nusaibah hanya bertutur dalam bahasa Inggeris. So, saya akan terjemahkan sebaik yang mungkin, insyaAllah. And kalau boleh, siapa-siapa ada tanya soalan, nanti boleh tanya soalan ya. Okay, let's get Nusaibah to request. Okay. Assalamualaikum. Oh, wait. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good. Alhamdulillah. Sorry?
Can you hear me fine?
Yes. Can everybody
Okay,
hear Nusaibah and me? Okay, good.
Good.
Okay, so Nusaibah, inshallah, we're going to start a good session that will inshallah benefit many viewers out there on the topic Montessori at Home series. Okay? But
Yes.
before we start, so before we start, inshallah, I would just like to share a bit of my experience and story. And if anybody who doesn't understand, siapa yang tak faham, boleh tulis di ruangan komen. So insyaAllah saya akan terjemahkan ya. Okay, so kejap ada yang tanya di live FB juga tak? Saya tak ada live di FB sekarang ni. Okay, so pengalaman saya mengikuti Montessori ni apabila anak saya Sofia yang pertama, my first daughter was around 2. I think I got I started to be more aware of what education approached for her. So we live nearby a kindergarten that was running a Montessori approach kindergarten, and then I read up a lot. Well, at that time, I think I didn't have much resources, but the best that I could, I started to understand the philosophy of Montessori, and Alhamdulillah, I implemented as much as I could at that time by setting up a child-friendly environment for my daughter. And then the best thing that I learned during that time was when I realized about the aspect of respecting your child. So that dari sudut aspek yang kita harus hormati anak kita kerana mereka juga mempunyai hati, emosi, perasaan seperti kita juga. Nusaibah, what I was telling them is like, what really struck me when I read on the whole thing, what I could grasp on was that children, just like us, they are human beings with feelings. They've got a spirit. They've got their own needs and wants. Because previously, I did not have any parenting experience, of course. I really thought that little children are like just little people. So like we would be the one instructing them and directing them on what to do. It's like their life depended on us. I think that's what many parents thought initially, that that's what children are. Until I realized that when I looked at my child, subhanallah, my child has feelings, my child has her needs, my child has her wants. And that really shaped the whole paradigm of how I approached in parenting my children. Yeah. Okay.
I think a lot of parents like you, they come to that when you have your children, you come to that recognition that, hang on a minute, this child is their own individual, and how can I support them and help them? So you have, just like Atiyah shared with us, they're on that journey where they suddenly have their children, and then they develop this realization that these children are their own individuals with their own potential, their own capabilities, their own sensitivities. And then that's where a lot of people begin searching, right, for a
Yes.
way to raise and educate their children, which is what you did, right, Atiyah?
Yeah, the best that I could at that time with the resources that I had. And then also in teaching them, like I've always been quite critical in within myself. Like, I think there must be a different approach to how children can learn certain ways, where it has to be more interesting and more hands-on. So when I discovered Montessori, I was like, mashallah, this is like, it covers all that. At the same time, it allows the child to be themselves and follow their fitrah. I love that, because I don't believe in forcing children to do what we feel that is best for them. And of course, children need to be led by us. I mean, that's why parents, is important for us to learn this knowledge. Sebab tu, ibu dan ayah kita sangat kena faham apa itu pendidikan, bagaimana nak mendidik anak. Because if we don't understand this, how can we want to provide the right environment for the children? Right? So then Alhamdulillah, I noticed that when Sophia entered a Montessori kindergarten, she didn't have a full 3 years, but I could see that, mashallah, her grasp of concept of many things, like her mathematics, love for reading, is something that nobody forced her, but I could see the how she grasped it. It's like deep rooted inside her, you know, like you can't take that away from her. Like even in reading, subhanallah, she loves to read, Sophia. She's always with her books. She can read a book like that thick and read it again and again and again. And I would say that, mashallah, I credit that to the way language was introduced to her. How reading was introduced to her. Like, we didn't force her, but she developed that as a young child when she was sensitive to language and she was given the right method of teaching. Alhamdulillah, she grasped it. And until now, alhamdulillah, she loves to read. Okay, Nusaibah, my sister there, it's actually Dr. Anya. She asked you, Madam Nusaibah, how do you set boundaries to children through Montessori perspective? Do you want to answer that now or a bit later?
We're definitely going to answer that in this video. We're definitely going to answer that. I just wanted to follow on from what Atiyah was saying, is that a lot of parents, you know, you have your child, they're so precious to you. You know, you're in this world, you're the one who wants your child to get to their potential the most. You're the one who wants to understand your child the most. And especially in this day and age that we're in now, we're more aware of the potential that our children have. We're more aware of their emotions and everything. And you know, our lifestyle allows us to have that awareness. So when we become parents, we begin to do this journey of seeking, how can we be the best parents that we can be? And if you're a teacher and you're really sincere about your job, you begin searching, how can you be the best teacher that you can be? And a lot of people, they come to Montessori through that search, because you've got this desire that you want to be the best parent, you want to give your child the best opportunity. And a lot of teachers, they come, you know, they want to be the best teachers. And you come from this point of view that you really want to understand your child and understand how you can nurture them and develop them in the right way. And that's why the Montessori education is so suitable, because the Montessori method is not just an academic method where you teach your children to read or you teach your children mathematics. I know that when we go on Instagram, Facebook, even on a Google search, we're just going to see, you know, you type in Montessori, you're going to see loads of photos of activities, right?
Yeah.
But actually, activities is just one part of the Montessori method, and those activities themselves, they're nothing if it's not grounded in the Montessori philosophy, because the core of Montessori is the philosophy, and that philosophy is about understanding the child, understanding how human beings grow and develop over their journey of life. The activities that we see,
thick and read it again and again and again. And I would say that, mashallah, I credit that to the way language was introduced to her. How reading was introduced to her. Like, we didn't force her, but she developed that as a young child when she was sensitive to language and she was given the right method of teaching. Alhamdulillah, she grasped it. And until now, alhamdulillah, she loves to read. Okay, Nusaibah, my sister there, it's actually Dr. Anya. She asked you, Madam Nusaibah, how do you set boundaries to children through Montessori perspective? You want to answer that now or a bit later?
We're definitely going to answer that in this video. We're definitely going to answer that. I just wanted to follow on from what Atiyah was saying, is that a lot of parents, you know, you have your child, they're so precious to you. You know, you're in this world, you're the one who wants your child to get to their potential the most. You're the one who wants to understand your child the most. And especially in this day and age that we're in now, we're more aware of the potential that our children have. We're more aware of their emotions and everything, and you know, our lifestyle allows us to have that awareness. So when we become parents, we begin to do this journey of seeking, how can we be the best parents that we can be? And if you're a teacher and you're really sincere about your job, you begin searching, how can you be the best teacher that you can be? And a lot of people, they come to Montessori through that search, because you've got this desire that you want to be the best parent, you want to give your child the best opportunity. And a lot of teachers, they come, you know, they want to be the best teachers. And you come from this point of view that you really want to understand your child and understand how you can nurture them and develop them in the right way. And that's why the Montessori education is so suitable, because the Montessori method is not just an academic method where you teach your children to read or you teach your children mathematics. I know that when we go on Instagram, Facebook, even on a Google search, we're just going to see, you know, you type in Montessori, you're going to see loads of photos of activities, right? Yeah. But actually, activities is just one part of the Montessori method, and those activities themselves, they're nothing if it's not grounded in the Montessori philosophy, because the core of Montessori is the philosophy, and that philosophy is about understanding the child, understanding how human beings grow and develop over their journey of life. The activities that we see when we go on Instagram, Facebook, you know, even if you look at my own Instagram page, those activities you see, they're just a tool. They're a tool that we use to get through to our children. They're a tool that we use to help them reach their potential. But the Montessori method is a lot more than that. It's not just about teaching. It's about nurturing. It's about developing. It's about supporting and facilitating for your child so that they can grow up to fulfill and actualize the potential that is God-given within them. That's what the Montessori method is about. And that's why a lot of parents come to the Montessori method, because more than, you know, maybe some teachers, you want to give your children the best that you can in those years that they're with them. But as parents, we want to give our children the best that they can throughout their whole life. We have that kind of strong pull and desire and urge. And that's why when we come to the Montessori method, we find a lot of our questions are answered. So whether it's questions about how to teach your child, or questions about how to put boundaries for your children, or questions about how to support your child's emotional development, all of those questions can be answered through the Montessori philosophy. The Montessori philosophy is basically a method that is going to allow you to understand your child, understand this magical unfolding of human development. So you're going to get to understand your child in a way that maybe you were never understood as an adult. Like when you were a child, you were never understood. You get to really understand your child. And when your child is understood, they're free. When they're understood, they're free to be who they want to be. So like, if a lot of us, if we reflect on our own childhood, you know, I'm sure each one of us may have one or two stories where we felt like we were not understood, right? Whether it's by our parents or by our teachers, even, you know, the people who loved us the most and the people who, you know, meant the best for us. Even at times, maybe they didn't fully understand us, what we're capable of, or what we need, or what's going on inside us, right? And when you felt misunderstood as a child, you kind of felt like a disconnection, right? You felt a disconnection, and you felt a kind of like, you know, confusion and an inner frustration, because ideally you want your family to know you, because when your parents know you, then they can be there for you and support you. And that's what the Montessori method does. If you understand the Montessori philosophy properly, you get to know your child. You know, this is what I love. Up the eyes of the parent so that you can truly see who your child is and what their potential is. And then you will not just see them, but you will know how to guide them along their journey. You'll know what you can do confidently, happily do to guide your children along their journey. Otherwise, we might see that our children have certain, like my son, for example, when he was younger, I knew that he's extremely creative. Like he's so creative. He just wrote a story last night. And when he was reading the story, I felt like I was in a movie, not watching a movie. I felt like I was in a movie, you know, so creative. Yeah, so creative. So I remember when he was small, I was watching him and I was thinking, you know, like, okay, there's this creativity in him, but how do I support him so that he doesn't lose it? How do I support him so that he can actualize it? When you have developed that understanding of the Montessori philosophy, what happens is you begin to understand your child and you understand how you can support your child. So it kind of answers all those questions. And that's why, like, me and Atiyah are going to try our best to come live as much as possible. We're both really busy, but we're going to try and come live as much as possible, because there's a lot of aspects from like the parenting side that can really have really benefited us. You know, they've really benefited us as parents, and we really want to be able to share them and help people to understand them. And Atiyah, you've recently been doing the course with me, right? So, you know, I've been running a 10-week intensive Montessori course, and we've been covering a lot of Montessori philosophy. And, you know, Atiyah, do you want to share how you felt that it changed the way you see your children? Do you want to share with everybody?
In fact, I think Anushka is also watching us.
Yeah, I think there's some other people who've joined the courses. Yeah, and like
okay, so what I can feel, what I learned from the whole, well, it's our 9th week now, mashallah, it has really changed me inside here, the way that I look at my child, because I mean, when you understand your child, like you were saying, what Montessori brings us is for parents to understand their children. And that just settles us as parents. It settles you down. Because the main issue for us parents and maybe teachers is that we're not understanding what's going on with the children. So when we don't understand, it's like there's a gap, and we feel like we're not being understood. We don't understand them. And then what the philosophy has actually brought me to understand is the natural and beautiful natural growth of a child that Allah has put in place. Subhanallah. Like, Allah created us human beings as a very special being, and He wouldn't just leave us just like that. There's something that Allah has installed in all of us, and that is something that really struck me and has really sort of like, it's like in the Quran, like Allah always delivers good news, right? So learning about this is like a delivery of good news to me, so that I understand my children better, and every aspect of whatever they do has a meaning and translation behind it. So for example, all this while we think that our child misbehaves. Then I start to understand, like, okay, but what is the child telling me? What is the child's inner being telling me? What is it that the child wants that I'm not able to provide, or I don't quite fully understand yet? So subhanallah, Nusaibah, I must say, and it has made me even calmer that now the MCO, there's a hikmah behind the MCO, because I'm working closely with my 5-year-old, soon to be 5-year-old Samiha. I can actually implement a lot of the theoretical videos that you've been teaching me, and also the working with her on the materials. Subhanallah, I can see how it's unfolding and unlocking a lot of her potential. Like, otherwise I wouldn't have taken notice of all that. And it's just beautiful how it's all this that I'm learning is actually able to support her and also support me, because I think most importantly as parents we need to get the support.
Yeah, because otherwise we feel guilty, right? You know, otherwise if we don't know how to support our children, we end up feeling like we didn't do the best that we can, right? And we end up feeling like, you know, that we're not a good enough parent, or we end up feeling that, you know, you're confused. You know, I remember being in that situation with my son where we had like, either I could do A or I could do B, but I don't know which one is the right one. right? And then you're worried which step to take. How, is your next step going to be one that's going to, give him his best, or is it, is there another way? But when you learn about this, then that worry goes away, because what you're learning is the science of how humans grow and develop, right? And when you learn that science, then you can begin to take a, more relaxed, like you're more relaxed in terms of, you know what's going to happen and what to look forward to and how you can support your child. So that worry and that kind of, feeling, upset with yourself, that worry kind of goes. And now you're more confident in just, setting your child up for success, supporting them. You're more, ready to just, meet them where they need to be meted, right? And then you can feel confident. Once you've done it, you feel confident in yourself. You feel confident that actually, I can do the best that I can for my child. And that's the beautiful thing that the Montessori method brings. It brings that, it gives you that knowledge of how they grow and develop, so that you can be a better mom, you can be a better person, you can feel more confident in yourself, and your children will be more happy, they'll be more engaged. And as they grow and develop, you're going to see the most beautiful and amazing things happen. When I look at my son, who's 16, every time I look at him, I just think, thank God, alhamdulillah, I know about the Montessori method. I'm like, alhamdulillah, I know about the Montessori method. Because if I didn't, who would he be today? Who would he be today? And, something really cute happened yesterday. We took out a whiteboard and we were writing some pros and cons for a decision that he wanted to make. And then he goes to me, well, I've been doing this all my life in a Montessori classroom. So, it's a good thing I went to Montessori, and it's like the way that he answered it is that, these things are not going to be obstacles in my path because I went to Montessori school, So it's beautiful to see as they grow. Now I get to see the fruits, I get to see the outcome of Montessori in a teenager, and I get to see the beauty side of that. But those of you that have young children, you're on your journey. This is your chance to understand your child, to unlock their potential, to develop a relationship with them, the way that you truly want it to be in your heart, which is where you and your child are fully connected and fully understanding each other. This is the chance through the Montessori philosophy. So those of you who feel pressurized, because sometimes people message me and they say to me, I want to do Montessori. Where do I start? Where do you buy your trays? Where do you do this? Where can I get the activities from? And they start to feel pressurized, pressure that they have to go out and buy everything and they have to change their whole house and everything. But actually, it's more about the philosophy. I always recommend that people begin to understand the Montessori philosophy first, because when you understand the philosophy, you can be a Montessori mum without buying anything. You can be a Montessori mom. You can just be a Montessori mom without having to get anything. Just be.
Yeah.
Whereas you can go out and you can buy everything, but if you don't understand the Montessori philosophy, even with all the materials, with all the pretty trays and shelves, you're not going to be a Montessori mom. You're not going to unlock your child's potential. You're going to face these obstacles that you won't know what to do next with. So, this is why the Montessori philosophy is so important to parents. So, so, so important. And it's like, it's kind of like the Montessori philosophy is kind of like opens for us so that we can see what's happening inside our child. We're seeing what's happening inside our child. And that's why a lot of people, when they learn about the philosophy, they kind of have this moment of, realization that now I understand what's going on. Now I understand, like you said, that my child is not being naughty. Now I understand that my child is communicating that they need something. Or now I understand, why my child gets upset when I try to put their shoes on and they say, no, 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 and they try and do it themselves. Now I understand why. And that's the understanding that comes from that philosophy. So it's really, really crucial, really, really important that everyone develops that ability to understand the child through the eyes of Montessori. And those of you who have never heard this before, Dr. Montessori tells us that it's not her method. Actually, she didn't want to call it the Montessori method. She says this is the method of the child. So all of our talks is about the method of the child. It's the method of understanding a child from what the child has shown us through the observations that have been made on the child. We just use Montessori because that's how this is what the philosophy is called now. but Montessori wants us to know that this is the philosophy that is the method of the child. And this is why more so, it's so important to us as parents, so important to us.
Should we take even, I think, Nusaibah, just from, yeah, sure. And from learning this, the philosophy, it has actually even sort of like refined my the way I conduct myself with the children. You know, because I feel you know, like I'm more graceful, and I feel like I'm more cautious of how I see things, because you know there's it's like, as parents, you have to pride yourself as like this Montessori mom or Montessori teacher, because you're following the child, like you said. So it's a really good thing for us to understand and embrace. And inshallah, when our child, like I said, when we're settled, our children will be in a very settled environment and peaceful. And that's what all of us want, right? Inshallah. So yeah, so let's go to the questions. I think the first question here, let's see. Start from the top. Let's see. I saw, okay, might be my sister. Okay, just now mommy was watching. Okay, Madam Nusaibah, how do you set boundaries to children through Montessori perspective?
So the Montessori method, it's the philosophy emphasizes that we give children freedom within limits. Okay, so it's a very balanced method. So what we're facing nowadays, when you look at parenting, sometimes you're either being too strict or you're being too loose, right? You're giving the children too much freedom, and then it kind of gets out of hand, or so on. Or the children, maybe they don't reach their full potential because they have too much freedom. And then other times you're being too strict with your child. You're constricting your child too much. They cannot grow and develop in the way that they need to, so they don't reach their full potential. In order for a child to be guided properly, Montessori talks about having the balance of freedom within limits. And that amount of freedom is based upon their current age and stage of development, their needs, and their ability to take responsibility. So we give the child as much freedom as they can bear, as they are responsible for, and we grow, the freedom grows with them as they grow in their ability to be able to take responsibility. And we give them the limits that will keep them within that framework. Our aim is to be able to give the child as much freedom as possible, right? That's our aim, to grow their ability so that they can be responsible for the freedom, to grow their ability so they can be responsible for the freedom without having to have the adult constantly, guiding them or restricting them or so on. So we want to grow that capacity within the child. But children, straight away, depending on how they've been raised or how they've been educated, they don't straight away have this ability to be responsible for the freedom that's given. In fact, Maria Montessori says that if you take a child who is not able to be responsible for freedom and you give them too much freedom, then you're going against the whole concept of giving freedom to the child. If you give the child who's not ready too much freedom, she says you're going against this whole idea of freedom. So as parents, we should want to give our child as much freedom as possible. But we have to build their capacity to that freedom. You build it slowly. You work with the child according to their level, according to their ability. First of all, you have to believe that the child can exert self-control. There's this idea that a lot of people have that children cannot control themselves, right? There's this idea, right? If you give your child, there's this idea, if you give your child endless chocolates, they're just going to eat chocolates all day long and they're not going to stop, right? There's this idea that we have, this misconception that we've developed that children cannot control themselves. And actually, the reason that children don't control themselves is because we've never given them that opportunity to exert their own responsibility. That's why they become like this. But the natural the disposition of a child is that actually the children naturally, they will be very reasonable. That's the natural disposition of the child. The fitra of the child is that they want to do the best thing. That's the fitra of the child. So you want to in order to allow that freedom and in order to give them that right level of freedom within limits, you have to create an environment that provides them with the right boundaries and also the right space for them to be free so that they can show you what it is that they can take in their responsibility, what it is that they are able to cope with. You have to create the right environment and you have to observe and watch the child. And every single child is going to be at a different level in their ability to deal with freedom, to deal with discipline. Every child is going to be at a different level. So you want to work with each child. You want to observe each child's level and see. So as a parent, for example, you know, let's say you have 3 kids. You have a 2-year-old, you have a 5-year-old, and you have a 7-year-old, right? You're not going to give the 2-year-old and the 7-year-old the same amount of freedom, right? You're not going to give the 2-year-old and 7-year-old the same amount of freedom, because it should be that by now the 7-year-old has developed enough responsibility that they would be able to do many things that a 2-year-old can't do, right? So that shows you that as...
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Can everybody hear Nusaibah? Nusaibah, my sister said that we only heard up to the part where you said about not the same freedom for a 3 and a 7-year-old. And after that, they didn't hear anything else.
Okay, can you hear me fine now? So shall I continue?
Yeah, okay, good. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, good.
Yes,
okay, great. Yeah, I'm really sorry because where I live, since we've been on the lockdown, I think there's been a problem with U-Mobile where I live because our network connection has been really, really bad. So I'm really sorry about that. Yeah, so sorry about that. Anyway, so what I was saying is that the freedom that you're going to give to a 2-year-old is obviously going to be very different from a 7-year-old, right? Okay, but the 7-year-old is only going to be able to be responsible for as much freedom as you have allowed them to develop, right? If you've restricted them and not given them the opportunity to be responsible, they're not going to have that ability to kind of use the freedom that you give them. So, I mean, I've seen 7-year-olds who can, you know, chop their own vegetables with an adult knife. They can fry an egg. They can use electrical appliances, no problem. You know, they can go, they can, you know, do, they can buy things from a shop. Of course, they have an adult accompanying them, but they can go to the shop, they can buy things, and they can get the right amount of change and so on. You know, I've seen 7-year-olds who can really take a lot of responsibility. And actually, if we ask our grandparents, or our great-grandparents, most likely they'll tell us that when they were 7, they used to have to go and collect water, or they used to have to go and, you know, go to the shop and buy so-and-so. And, you know, they'd tell us all these amazing things that they had to do when they were, you know, young. My mum said that from the age of 6, she had to walk, I think, 2 miles to school by herself. Yeah, in England. Yeah, this is not a third world country. In England, you know, she had to walk 2 miles by herself to school every day from the age of 6. So that's a huge amount of freedom that this 6-year-old has, and they've been able to take responsibility for it. But if you have a 7-year-old who's never been given the opportunity to, you know, go from their front door to the gate of their house by themselves, then of course they're not going to be able to do that, have that responsibility to go to a long distance. Likewise, if you have a 7-year-old who's never been allowed to use a knife to cut vegetables, then when they're 7, they're not going to have that responsibility with a knife. So this is all about developing. You have to develop this responsibility in the children by giving them the right amount of freedom at the right time in their life. You want to give them the right amount of freedom so that they can grow with it and they can develop more and more responsibilities. About setting boundaries and rules, which is what the question was about, in the Montessori environment, we focus on 3 basic limitations or 3 basic rules. And we try not to phrase them as rules, but we try to put it more as our responsibilities, right? And those would be to respect and care for everyone in the environment, right? To respect and care for the environment itself, to respect and care for ourselves. So within those 3, it already encompasses everything. So respecting and caring for people in our environment means that we will use kind language, that we will talk to each other respectfully, that we will respect other people's property, that we won't unnecessarily disturb people, that we will learn the correct etiquettes for how we can communicate to each other, how we can play together, how we can eat together. All of that is covered already in respecting everyone in the environment. And respecting and caring for the environment itself includes tidying up after yourself. It includes, pushing your chair in after you finish sitting at a table. It includes washing your dishes. It includes caring for any plants or animals that are in the pet. All of that is included in respecting the environment. And then when it comes to respecting and caring for yourself, then that includes even how you look at yourself, how you appreciate yourself, what instead of you using negative, oh, I'm not good, or I can't do that. That's going to the negative. And, it's coming to you, even you respect yourself. You are positive about yourself. You understand that in order for you to be healthy, you have to eat healthy food. So you respect your body and you give your body healthy food. In order for you to, grow, and in order for you to, develop well, you have to sleep at nighttime. So you respect that there's a certain routine for you at nighttime, and so on. All of that is those three basic limitations are the ones that we set in a Montessori classroom. They can equally be set at home. But what we do is we set them. They're very simple, so it's easy for the child to follow. And then we go through discussing it with the children at their level to help them grow and develop. So, for example, let's say your child doesn't want to go to bed. Yeah, and your child is making a fuss. They don't want to go to bed. Or let's say your child doesn't want to shower, right? They don't want to shower, and they are making a fuss. They don't want to shower. Which rule does that fit into? If it's into the third one, which is that we respect and care for ourselves, right? So you would say to the child, do you remember when we spoke about our responsibilities, we said that we have to respect and care for ourselves. So you have to respect and care for your body. And every day, your body has to be washed and it has to be cleaned so that your body can grow. It can be healthy. It can be hygienic so that you can look beautiful. If you shower, you'll feel fresh. You'll feel beautiful. You'll feel, alert. So when you shower, you are caring and you are respecting yourself. So let's go and shower like that. When you bring your child back to these ground rules, actually, it's very simple. Because it's not like you're saying, I've said you have to shower, so shower. It's not like that. It's not coming from you. It's coming from this idea of respecting, these three rules, which is basically built on respect, right? So those are kind of the boundaries that you want to try and set. Any boundary that is not necessary, that it's not necessary, you have to really question yourself whether it's worth putting there or not. A boundary that's not necessary, right? You have to question yourself. Should I put it there or not? Is it worth having that limitation on my child, or is that limitation going to take something away from my child's experience or something away from their growth and their development? So you have to ask yourself. But you'll see that pretty much all of the ones that you're going to think of are going to come under those three. And what we do in Montessori is going to the negative. It's coming to you, even you respect yourself. You are positive about yourself. You understand that in order for you to be healthy, you have to eat healthy food. So you respect your body and you give your body healthy food. In order for you to, grow, and in order for you to, develop well, you have to sleep at nighttime. So you respect that there's a certain routine for you at nighttime, and so on. All of that is those three basic limitations are the ones that we set in a Montessori classroom. They can equally be set at home. But what we do is we set them. They're very simple, so it's easy for the child to follow. And then we go through discussing it with the children at their level to help them grow and develop. So, for example, let's say your child doesn't want to go to bed. Yeah, and your child is making a fuss. They don't want to go to bed. Or let's say your child doesn't want to shower, right? They don't want to shower, and they are making a fuss. They don't want to shower. Which rule does that fit into? If it's into the third one, which is that we respect and care for ourselves, right? So you would say to the child, do you remember when we spoke about our responsibilities, we said that we have to respect and care for ourselves. So you have to respect and care for your body. And every day, your body has to be washed and it has to be cleaned so that your body can grow. It can be healthy. It can be hygienic so that you can look beautiful. If you shower, you'll feel fresh. You'll feel beautiful. You'll feel, alert. So when you shower, you are caring and you are respecting yourself. So let's go and shower like that. When you bring your child back to these ground rules, actually it's very simple, because it's not like you're saying, I've said you have to shower, so shower. It's not like that. It's not coming from you. It's coming from this idea of respecting, these 3 rules, which is basically built on respect, right? So those are kind of the boundaries that you want to try and set. Any boundary that is not necessary, that is not necessary, you have to really question yourself whether it's worth putting there or not. A boundary that's not necessary, right? You have to question yourself. Should I put it there or not? Is it worth having that limitation on my child, or is that limitation going to take something away from my child's experience or something away from their growth and their development? So you have to ask yourself. But you'll see that pretty much all of the ones that you're going to think of are going to come under those 3. And what we do in Montessori is we use grace and courtesy. Grace and courtesy is like small, cute role play lessons where we sit with the children and we may talk about one aspect of our grace and manners, and we'll do a role play about it. So, for example, how to walk past somebody who's in your way. What do you do if somebody's in your way and you're walking? You would say, excuse me. So we do a role play about that. And, I'll be the teacher and I'll stand there and be in the way. And then, another teacher will come and say, excuse me, Auntie Nusaibah, can I pass? And I'll say, oh, yes, you can. And I'll move out the way. So we do it like a role play. So we get the children to practice all of these etiquettes and stuff that's within the ground rule. We get them to practice it in a funny kind of role play game. And then when it comes to the real life opportunity, either your child is going to do the right thing, or if they forget, you can say, oh, do you remember what we did when we did the grace and courtesy? And then the child will remember. Because it's done in that way, it's more likely that the child is going to want to get involved and going to want to be using all of this grace and etiquette in their home. So I really recommend all parents, if you're watching this video today, you can go back, you can think about those 3 things. You can write down what they would mean for you in your house, what they would mean for you in your environment. And then think about how you can create small games, mini lessons, mini games with your children where you're sitting together and you're discussing each of those small grace and courtesies that you think are really important for your children to develop. I hope that answered that question. It was a bit of a long answer. I'm sorry.
But it's very important. It covers a lot.
That's why we have to do many videos, because...
Yeah, many more series, inshallah. Nusaibah, following from that question, comes a question, can you give an example of the environment that sets the freedom and shows self-control? I think that one is you've already touched that, yeah? Yeah, okay. So my mom said repeat the 3. So yeah, who can write? So
maybe we can check and see if who was listening.
Yeah, but I can answer for you.
Yeah, go on then, Atiyah.
Yeah, but let's see who will be able to write for us. Then I'll give you the answer. Okay, Nusaibah, there are actually 7 questions in total, so you've answered 2. Let's see which one I'm going to choose that is relevant. Okay, is it true? Is it right? But this question was asked in Malay. I'll translate it for you. Is it right that parents teach the older sibling to always, give way for the younger sibling? Usually it's like, you're the bigger one. You have to, in Malay you call it mengalah. Always giving way for the little sibling because he or she is younger. What's your view on that?
If you kind of look at all the research that happens about families, you'll see that there are certain patterns. That it's not necessary that it's always existent, but there are patterns that you see in families. Like the firstborn will be, sometimes parents are more stricter on the firstborn and they expect more from the firstborn, and they expect the firstborn to be more helpful and to be more, responsible and so on. And then with the younger one, parents might be more, give them more freedom and baby them a bit more and so on. So you do see certain patterns in families, and there's like the middle child syndrome, which is another one. which is what I had anyway. So there's all these different, like, you know, things that you can look at when you break down a family. The important thing is that if you're parenting your child based on a philosophy of how children grow and develop, you can apply it to each one of your children. Of course, your older child is going to have more responsibility because they're older. But it shouldn't be that your younger child can get away with things just because they're the younger child. So let's say, for example, I'll give you 2 examples, okay? Let's say your 7-year-old throws a tantrum, throws himself on the floor and throws things, right? And let's say you have a 2-year-old who throws themselves on the floor and starts throwing things. Of course, it's like, you wouldn't deal with it the same way with a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old, because in the 2-year-old, you know, that's the only way they can express themselves. If they're really frustrated, that's the only way they're going to express themselves, is they're going to have a tantrum, right? Although maybe we can talk about tantrums in another session, because my 2-year-old never had a tantrum. But anyway, we can talk about that in another session. But that's the way that many 2-year-olds will express themselves, right? But your 7-year-old has other tools to express themselves. So when you see that kind of behavior in both of them, it doesn't mean you're going to treat them equally. It doesn't mean you're going to deal with it in the same way, because obviously they're at 2 different stages of development, right? So one aspect is sometimes parents will do the same thing because they want to be fair. They'll give the same thing to the children, even though the children are completely different in their ages and their stages and their needs and their development. And then the other alternative is that sometimes parents will give the 7-year-old so much responsibility, but that small one, when they're 7, they don't have that responsibility. Right? You know? Yeah, right. So maybe like the 7-year-old, you know, needs to be able to wash their own dish in the sink, and they need to be able to help with certain things. They might have some chores in the house, but when the younger child is 7, they don't have any chores in the house, right? You'll see sometimes things like that happen. So fairness is actually giving your child what they need at the right time. So according to their age and stage of development, you give them exactly what they need at that stage of their life, right? And then as the child grows, it's going to change and grow with the child. That's actually how you can be fair as a parent. So that means that in some circumstances, you may have certain limitations on your younger child, and your older child has more freedom in that limitation. Like bedtime. Maybe your younger child is going to bed at 7:30, whereas your 10-year-old can go to bed at 9 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
You may have some changes like that where there's more freedom for the older one, and there'll be other times that there'll be more freedom for the younger one and more restriction on the older one. So for example, if the younger one is throwing a tantrum and your 10-year-old is throwing a tantrum, obviously the 10-year-old needs to learn another way that they can communicate their frustration, and you're not going to deal with the tantrum in that way. It's going to be dealt with in a more kind of direct way, right? So this is why we do sometimes see parents will get confused, and either they're going to be too harsh on the older one, or they're going to be too lenient on the older one, or they're going to be too harsh on the younger one, or too lenient on the older one. But when you have a philosophy for how your children grow and develop, when you learn about the Montessori philosophy, then it gives you a guideline throughout their life. Because the Montessori philosophy is not just for the young children, it's throughout their life. So you learn to grow and develop your parenting skills and your ability to engage with your child as they grow and as they develop. So that will then give you a really, really nice guideline that's going to help you to ensure that you're giving your children the right amount of freedom, discipline, and limitations that's going to help them to grow and develop. And you're going to be supporting them along the way, each step.
Okay. Inshallah.
I hope that answered that question.
Yeah. So for the viewers, I hope you understand that because maybe the one who answered is Malay. I'll just give a bit of summary in Malay. Anak-anak ni kita berikan mereka pendekatan mengikut tahap dan umur mereka. So mungkin kadang kita dah biasa bagi anak yang ni kena mengalah. Sebenarnya kita kena lihat adakah keadaan itu adil. keadilan itu bermakna apabila kita memberikan sesuatu perkara pada masa dan peringkat yang sesuai untuk anak tu. Okay, insyaAllah. Okay, oh, this is quite sad. My sister had passed away. I'm now taking care of 2 girls, aged 7 and 2.5. It is a frustration that I can't really attend to the 7-year-old. May Allah bless you, sister, insyaAllah.
Yeah. I think if you need help, just you can message me, and I'll be really happy to give you advice or help you. Of course, it's going to be heartbreaking for both of them, the 2-year-old and the 7-year-old. It's going to be really, really heartbreaking for them that they lost their mother. So there's a lot there that you have to be able to support them in. So inshallah, may Allah give you the strength to support them well.
Ameen, inshallah. We make dua for the sister and her family, inshallah. Okay, Nusaibah, it's already 6:49.
Yeah.
I think all the other questions, we're going to answer it in another session, inshallah.
Yeah, we're going to save the questions. So if you've asked a question, it's going to get answered. Don't worry. Just keep coming on the lives. We will announce when we have our lives. Keep coming on the live sessions. We're going to answer the questions. Sometimes we might group similar questions together just so that it flows in the conversation. But, do keep coming. We're going to try maybe like at least a few times a week to go live together and go through these questions, inshallah.
Yay, inshallah. Okay, so I thank all of you for tuning in to our first live session together, inshallah, for this series. Because it is my intention to Nusaibah to encourage more parents out there, especially for mothers and fathers, to believe that to be a good mom, to be a good loving parent, you do not need expensive things. You do not need to be living in a big house. It doesn't matter in the social economic status where you belong. It doesn't matter because what matters is your heart. What matters is what you believe in. What matters is what philosophy are you following. So inshallah, my jihad with Nusaibah and my mom and my sister and everyone out there, wonderful people, we want to bring, spread as much knowledge as possible, inshallah, so that we'll have more happy families, happy children, who will be the future generation, inshallah. And thank you so much, Nusaibah. Thank
you everyone for joining us. Don't worry, your questions will get answered.
It will.
We're going to get ready for the next one, inshallah.
Yes, inshallah.
Okay, thank you, Atiyah. And this video is going to be saved, right?
Yeah, it's going to be saved.
It's going to be saved. It's going to be on Atiyah's Instagram. It's going to be on my Instagram. Don't worry, you can watch it again. And
I'm gonna watch it again.
We're gonna save all of them, so don't worry, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Okay then, take care. Assalamualaikum.